Your platonic best friend might actually be the love of your life. I want to share one of my favorite love stories I've seen in a long time because I really want to normalize this. These two women just got married. They are platonic soulmates. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that as the great divorce continues. Thank you, Hope Peddler, for that too. And as women are just kind of tapping out because they realize that these men who will not work on themselves and will not deconstruct patriarchy are creating so much extra work for us that it's not worth it. And if our partner, who we're married to, aren't treating us just as well as and better than our best friend who doesn't get to us, if you do that kind of schmeg, then they ain't worth it. Cut them off. But you know what? Hold on. I lost my thingy. Up really quick. Follow my Patreon. I do fun stuff over there. Lives, French content, creativity, everything. Link is in my caption. Come join the club. We're having fun. The reason why people get married at all, besides social pressure and, just a long historic, despite all that, the main reason why people marry is because they want to stay connected as best friends for as long as that relationship works, which hopefully will be a long time. But the reason why people are like, we should ban marriage, la 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 la. Why? We're still operating in a system that you cannot. If you go to the hospital, your boyfriend, they can't say about you and help you. And if you're no contact with your there's a reason why health insurance is tied to it in the U.S. especially. There's immigration. Immigration's a big one. There's so much legal protection that comes with being married, inheritance, rights to the child if you have kids together. So all kinds of things happen because of a piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper. It's a really important piece of paper that actually protects you way more than living with a boyfriend for 10 years and doing wife duties and getting no protection whatsoever and losing all of that money, time, energy on a little king baby vampire parasite. I am not anti-marriage. I wouldn't be married if I didn't believe in marriage being useful, being worthy, being important in a system that has a lot of rules based on whether you're married or not, provides a lot of security. So I'm going to go into my own story with my platonic soulmate, Liz, who I talk about all the time, after I go into this story. And, if I wasn't married and she wasn't married and we really wanted to be together and live in the same town and we would absolutely marry each other for protection. Let's just get into this story and then I'll talk about my own after. So this was in the vows section of the New York Times, and usually this section is so gross and I just read it to make fun of it. But this is a story I will absolutely get behind. I love this. Two women redefine what it means to marry your best friend. So it started off in 2000 when they bought a house together, because that right there is a huge commitment. But their friendship started back in 1992 when they were women's studies together. And they kind of go through their whole love story, which is really cute. Because again, love is not just romantic love. Platonic love is just as satisfying because it doesn't involve all kinds of hormones. And then if you're a cishet woman, it doesn't also involve having to deconstruct patriarchy with your partner, which you wouldn't necessarily have to do if you did this. Because let me tell you something, even the most evolved man, even the most progressive man has so much work to do in a marriage. And if they don't think they do, you are going to get screwed. Because that little king baby mind has been programmed to exploit labor from any women in their life, even in the slightest way. They don't even know they're doing it sometimes. So they have to do a lot of work. So just know that if you are marrying a man or want to marry a man, you are going to have to work through unpacking patriarchy together if you don't want to end up hating them and feeling resentful. The difference is that the men who really want to unlearn will do the work. The men who are too lazy or don't love you enough, they won't do the work, and they will either, be served divorce papers, or they will have a partner who hates them, and you will hate yourself for being exploited. And then also, if you are what raises a woman under patriarchy, you yourself are going to have to unpack a lot of patriarchy and the codependency that is, we are taught to just, lose ourselves, center them. Even if they don't want us to center them, we still do it. A lot of times. So we have a lot of work to do ourselves in unlearning this indoctrination. So just know that if you decide to date that you're going to not decide if you're attracted to men and you actually want to go for heterosexual marriage, you will see it pop up. There's patriarchy. There it is. Ooh, it's like a whack-a-mole game that never ends. And that's okay as long as you both are eager and willing to learn and grow and do it. Part of it is that most men don't want to do that. They're just like, they won't read the books. They won't watch videos that you send them. They don't care. Because it's easy street for them. Why would they? Unless they love you enough, they don't want to lose you. So part of their story, they talk about, he hears food. Part of the story, they talk about how, realizing because they met in college and one of them was a year older, and the idea of like maybe missing their best friend because she graduates early. I can relate to that in my own story with my own best friend, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. We have been best friends for 20 years. It's the longest friendship in my life. Oh, he sees meat. He sees a sandwich with meat. Oh, look at you. I know. He's always asleep in my video. There's one thing that'll get his attention. And I love this little story here, whereas when this woman was going to defend her thesis, which is, as anyone who's ever done a thesis, is a really big deal. Her best friend showed up, came from out of town to sit in there and support her. I'm telling you, you really need to pay attention. If you are dating men, if they don't do the kind of things that your best friend would do, it's not going to work out well for you. That person has to really, really value you and your relationship and showing up for you in these kinds of ways. Because again, if they don't do this kind of stuff, you really think they're going to read Fair Play or just, go to therapy and do all this stuff to really work on themselves so that they don't take it out on the people they have power over in their household? You, your kids, whatever. So many of these the king babies, they think they inherited a kingdom and a castle and they're going to reign over it, even though they've literally done nothing to deserve that power. And then they have a whole system behind them, like the courts, that'll make sure he comes out the best, okay? They even figured out how to just be feminists together. That you could be a feminist and also enjoy pop culture and things that are anti-feminist. You know what I mean? Anyone can really, especially if you've ever read Roxane Gay's Bad Feminist. This is a constant struggle. I hate dating shows and I watch them to deconstruct them and use them as lessons. But I do actually enjoy hate watching them. They are entertaining as much as I hate them. So they decided that, you know what? Why can't we share a home together and be best friends and have fun together? So when they bought their home together in 2000, it was the first official step in being recognized as a unit, a legal unit. Because, when you own a home, there's paperwork involved in that. There's something, right? You still don't have the rights of a spouse in case one gets sick or anything. You don't have insurance, but you do have a home together. So that's the first step for them. I love this part right here because this is absolutely what everyone did with me and Liz, and they still do. The women were already known by everyone in their lives as Beth and Sherry. It's like one word, Beth and Sherry. They do everything together from travel to attending Broadway shows and arenas concerts. Show up as a pair at work events and family gatherings. Now, Liz and I don't do that. We haven't lived within thousands of miles of each other in a really long time. But they go to the Eagles games together, fully decked in their team gear. This is the really interesting part right here, because I do think we are quick to assume that best friends, and it's a fair assumption that if there's two women, they're best friends, they're living together, they just love each other so much that they're just closeted lesbians. Maybe so, because there's certainly been a long history of it not being safe to be out of the closet, not being something that we are taught to even do. Question am I attracted to this person? Or am I not even letting myself even ask that question because of my indoctrination into what is of religion and patriarchy and all these things, the things I should do and the things I should want versus how I really feel, what I really want. If you remember Elizabeth Gilbert, she married a man, then she married another man, and then when her best friend got sick, I think it was cancer or something, but a chronic illness, they became a couple. I don't know, I just think it's fascinating because I think a lot of people ask themselves, is this romantic love or platonic love? Or what is, you know what I mean? And I also think we need to never assume that just because two people of the same gender loving each other means that they are being dishonest with themselves, that they are that they're closeting something. I think we need to normalize this platonic love being deeply satisfying. Like, I ask myself, would I ever hook up with Liz? I honestly cannot imagine it, but I love her dearly. Like, we just love each other so much, but I just can't ever imagine that being anything than just platonic love. And when I think about it, like, I've had a lot of guy friends in my life that I still have some in my life that I adore, but I cannot ever imagine hooking up with them. I'm not attracted to them. There's no romantic desire there, but I love them as a human being, right? So I think it's fair to assume that maybe sometimes there is some lack of questioning of maybe this is something, maybe I'm just, whatever. But I think if you ask yourself that question enough and are willing to ask yourself, could this be true? And then you're like, no, then I think you don't have to worry about it. And I'll also say the love between, so I've just been seeing it my whole life with women where I grew up in the South. The best friends of a lot of women, they are so close that if one of them dies, for instance, the grief is just, they never recover from that grief. So anyway, I just want to add that nuance because I do think there is a lot of people not questioning enough, like, am I attracted to this person? And I also think we should never assume that someone is closeted because they love each other so much. And we're going to get into why in just a second. Because also, like, there's a lot of relationships with friends that I would never want to bring, like, hormones into that anyway. Yeah, like, hormones mess me up so much. I think our idea of what love is, we always assume that true, real love, it has to be romantic, and I really think we should just stop doing that. It's not healthy. Friendships and community are honestly the most important thing in my life, and romantic love is just the cherry on top. If you get that too, great. But we've been pushed as society for so long to only look for that. I think that's why so many people are so lonely. So it says they're not lesbians, though they say everyone in their lives, gay, straight, transgender, cisgender, have long assumed that they are, but their self-described tragically codependent relationship more closely resembles the enviable, iconic, cinematic friendship between Romy and Michelle from Romy and Michelle's high school reunion than, say, Bette and Tina from the L Word. While both women have had boyfriends in the past, neither is interested in dating or romantic relationships. I think we're going to see a lot more of this, especially with, like, 4B movement catching on more. Both women identify as asexual, and that is really important there. I actually, everyone thought I was either a closeted lesbian or asexual for most of my 20s and half my 30s because I didn't date anybody. And I later, I don't know if, like, hormones kicked in or just started looking at my asexual trauma from my past or whatever. I never really thought I was this because I did have the desire. I just didn't act on it. I just, like, froze it. But I have never identified as asexual because I didn't feel that way. I just put it on pause. I just didn't care and didn't want to explore it for a long time. But I would love to hear from people who are, because that's what they say they are. So, like, people are just like, no, but you must have romance. And they're like, but I don't want to. So yeah, I don't know. I'm so fascinated by all this. I think we're still just learning so much as people are talking more and sharing their story, and we are just deconstructing this crap that we were all taught, that, like, what we can and can't be and do, and this, like, purity culture and all that crap. They have always had separate bedrooms, and they're fully devoted to each other. They sometimes say they're in a Boston marriage, which is a 19th century term used to describe a household with two women who live together independently of men and male support. I'm telling y'all, we're going to see more of this. Mommune, if you don't know what that is, I did a video on it like a year ago, where women who are moms, single moms, are just, like, buying houses together and living together to support each other, because they get way more support from literally living with anybody but a father of those children. Unbelievable, but it's true. Well, believable, but, like, just crazy. Boston marriage has often been used as a euphemism for lesbian couples, which presumed that all women who lived together were romantically and sexually involved. Like Ms. Cole and Ms. Moore, that wasn't true in all these situations, but they definitely were living on their own terms and shattering heteronormative convention. That right there. We need to continue to shatter heteronormative conventions. Like, what even is marriage? I mean, honestly, this looks like a great arrangement. Besties living together. getting the financial and legal and just the protections that come with marriage, and especially in the U.S. I know people outside the U.S. are like, why are y'all so obsessed with marriage? Let me just give you a quick summary. You don't have health insurance, you don't have universal health insurance, so your health insurance is tied to your job or to marriage. And I have never had health insurance when I was in the U.S. Once I became an adult and couldn't be tied to my parents, I have never had health insurance. Well, I did for a little while, and then they canceled it because I tore my ligament, and they wouldn't pay for it, and they canceled it forever. And then I couldn't afford it. So, being a waitress, being a freelancer and stuff like that, you don't get this. So there's a lot of reasons why marriage, besides like being hyper-capitalist and being like purity culture, being so extreme there, and all the other things, and community not being something that is encouraged or even economically viable for a lot of people, because we work so much. I don't have 5 weeks off a year paid vacation like this country. Though I don't get that because I'm a freelancer here, so I still don't get that. But in the US, marriage is not just like hyper casual and like a lot of it is literally because it makes more sense and it's more protection. So why not? The women's commitment to each other as life partners has deepened over the years as practical matters have arisen. Exactly. Like the time that Ms. Moore realized that the health insurance she thought she had through work was far better and less expensive than Ms. Cole's. So they took the administrative steps to register as domestic partners, allowing them to put Ms. Moore on her plan. As they grew older and cared for aging parents, the friends began to consider whether they should take bigger steps. Exactly. Inheritance. How crazy is it that one of them could be completely estranged from their family and devoted over 30 years to their best friend, and yet if they don't write that stuff into the will or whatever, then their family, who may have been awful to them, is going to have rights to it because they're single women and not married and don't have kids. Even though she's a life partner, platonic partner, you don't get anything. And then this right here, COVID brought the issues of healthcare into focus. Exactly. I actually talked about our proposal in a video recently, and some of the comments were so rude because they don't know the story at all, that I've just decided I'm not going to talk about our relationship outside of Patreon much. I mean, I'll sprinkle some every once in a while, but I already share so much of my private life. I don't want people on the internet commenting on my private life now, because I talk so much about my private life for the last decades that, yeah, I'm just becoming a more private person. So it's another reason to join my Patreon, by the way, because I don't want to share stuff with everybody. People are rude. But I will say this, COVID is one of the things that reframed it for us. I realized I've always been very much against marriage. I was like, why would I ever get married? And COVID scared the crap out of me, because without those papers, immigration, you think they care how much we love each other? They don't care. Do you think if I go to the hospital and I'm dying, who is going to advocate for me? Do you think they care? My boyfriend has no rights. Literally anything that happens to me, I'm screwed because I'm in another country. And during COVID, the borders were closed for over a year. So if one of my parents died and I had to go home or bury somebody or just literally anything, he couldn't come. There was all these things that we didn't realize were a really big deal when COVID hit. It kind of put that questioning of wow, I didn't realize how much I actually want security, legal security around what we have. So for those of you who are wondering, I probably would have eventually wanted to get married, maybe. They don't really care about that crap over here. Most people I know who've been together, and they don't do it in Sweden too. They have buy a house and have babies and then maybe get married 10 years later. It is so different over here. So many of the couples that I know, they have children together, they own homes together, and they're PACs for tax reasons. They don't care about this other crap. They don't care about the ring and all that stuff. It's just not as big of a deal over here. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because that's what happened here. Is COVID really scared people. Now, some people made terrible decisions because because of that fear was rooted in making quick decisions, but at other times it really, your own death or death of somebody or just a crazy situation oftentimes have you question things and just question them again, having just not thought about it from a different perspective. So anyway, when the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage in 2015, they were presented with another option. But in the years immediately after the ruling, they hesitated, and I appreciate that, fearing that as non-gay people, they'd be infringing on the gay people's hard-won right. That was for other people who had fought and suffered for their love, and that wasn't quite us. We were just friends. And then she started to realize, however, that there is no just about friends. The women consider what sickness and death might look like for them without legal protection. Exactly. I really think that people, especially if you decided you're just done with dating, and especially as you're aging, this is something to consider. If you have a bestie who's your life partner, and they're like, seriously, this is so common for people to just have that soulmate. And I know a lot of people are looking for that and have asked me how to make friends, and remind me to make those videos. It's not easy to find them, but you just keep trying. Instead of being on Hinge and Bumble and all this other crap with men who are going to exploit you because they will never read the book Fair Play or literally do anything to deconstructing this stuff. They worried about not having the right to advocate for each other in times of crisis. Exactly. This is why you will never tell me until like something changes with the law that marriage is always bad. Seriously. Marriage is usually bad for women because we're marrying the wrong dudes. And because so many men suck. But anyway, it does offer a lot of protection. There is no one else who will care as much about my legacy. That's an interesting choice of words. Usually men use that to like talk about children they won't parent. Over the past year, with the encouragement of friends, family, and colleagues, women came to appreciate that they had a place on the queer spectrum, the A in LGBTQIA. And they needed protection. And as they brought a new home in 2022, their financial advisor and mortgage broker also suggested that they marry. That's so interesting. Wow. Legally, the only thing that will solidify our status in something is called marriage. And that's problematic. But that's what we have. Exactly. That's the only thing we have. I mean, at least like now, like here, you can get paxed. P-A-C-S. It's still not quite the same though. You don't get as much protection under that. But it does, like if it's for tax reasons and for a lot of things, it is enough. But anyway, while the laws are still so heteronormative, people are figuring out ways to work within the system. And I love that since they've considered themselves asexual, that they're like, wait, well, I guess we can do this. I appreciate them also like not trying, like being really respectful of just how hard that the LGBTQI community has fought just for the right to marry, and them not wanting to like be disrespectful with that. Which raises the question, what is the purpose of marriage? We really need to ask this question more. It used to be a legal entanglement that passed you from your father to your husband. That has evolved, of course, all the more so with friends. What matters to us is friendship, kindness, and support. If you are with a man right now that you want to marry so bad, is this what your foundation is? Friendship, kindness, and support. Forget how well they eat your... Forget that. And do they have this? Because even if you're like, they're not good as men, like you can have an open, like whatever. You know what? Honestly, I learned more about healthy relationships and even how marriage can play into all that from the LGBTQI community. My friends in that community have taught me more about opening my mind and making our own rules. You know? Our own rules. Because when I was like, I don't know if I can only fork one person the rest of my life. That sounds insane. So we had a lot of discussions around that. What that might look like. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, they're not talking about finances, which is critical. And they're not talking about, is this really going to be monogamous? Do you want this to be monogamous? Do we want to open it up at some time? If we do, when are we going to do that? How would that look? What do you think about that? All that stuff. And they're not paying attention. Is this relationship about friendship, kindness, and support? And if you're still going and taking a dump in the hotel lobby instead of a room with your boyfriend, you need to work on something. Either you don't feel safe with that dude because of him, or you need to learn how to not perform in front of this person. Like when I see so many women performing in front of the men they're married to, I'm like, you're gonna take a dump on the table if you have kids with this dude. You're gonna take a dump on the table. This man's gonna see you and you're like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, show your humanity. Friends want to see each other as humans, not as some fantasy. Not performing. You can't keep that act up long, not in the long term. And if that's what you want him to love you for that, like, it's like, You know what I'm saying? Actually, I just saw an episode in Sex and the City. It mainly makes me want, I'm definitely going to do a breakdown of that again. I've done so many already. Where Carrie is just like, where she like farts in front of Big, and she makes this whole big thing. Like, I don't know, God. And apparently so many women are like taking dumps in the lobby of the hotel because they just can't do it in front of their boyfriends. Like, would you do that with your best friend? Like, obviously, you want to keep like whatever, like being comfortable around your partner doesn't mean just being like all the time or whatever, but it means you are not like dehumanizing yourself, because that's not a true friendship if you are not even showing your own humanity. Like, that is performing. I can't tell you how much women have been taught to perform, and that's part of this. Hi, I'm happy, perfect. No, get rid of her. That is what we are to one another, and that, or should be, the core definition of a marriage and a partnership. Yes! As with their domestic partnership, their pragmatic reasoning led to the women to approach marriage like paperwork and take it to City Hall. Their friends and families caught wind of their plans, however, and wanted to celebrate with the women's 32 years of friendships. Oh, I love that. They were like, no, don't just go sign papers. Let's celebrate it. I love that. And bear witness to their exchange of vows, much to their delight and surprise. Oh. So on June 1st, they were married in a whimsical 45-minute ceremony. One wore jeans, the other one wore a black dress, slippers with a rainbow pride elastic. Both brides, who will continue to refer to each other as partners, wore Phillies baseball. Of course they did. Y'all, I had no idea how much Philly, I had no idea what diehard sports fans y'all are. My God. It's fascinating. Standing before 25 of their nearest and dearest. Oh. And later joined by the Phillies mascot. Oh my God. Okay, this is my favorite vow story of all time. Usually they're so stupid and they're all about, we have money. And it's like definitely like terrifying. Y'all, I've covered these before. I love this story. You are my soulmate and the person I want to grow old with, even if we don't share a bed. Oh, I love this. You're my favorite person, which is why at every table I'll save you a seat. Oh, this is so, I love this so much. Then they did a little Taylor Swift lyric. Friends' daughters toss popcorn instead of flowers. Oh, I just love this. This is another thing. I kind of hate weddings in the wedding industry, but if you don't look at it like that and look at it as just like all party with your friends celebrating, it is so fun. Because y'all know, I've told you, I just made a video recently, like, you don't have to go to your friend's wedding. You can't afford it, blah, 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 blah. Wrote a whole article for the Washington Post about it. But some of the funnest weddings I've ever been to is because they just did what was about, it was about them. It wasn't about all this other crap. I mean, at our wedding was really fun. And we went camping after the ceremony. And we did s'mores because, French people are like definitely kind of new to that. Anthony had no idea how to roast a marshmallow. And instead of just catching it on fire like me, because that's so me, he just like so respected this marshmallow. And I was like, oh my God, it's right there. It's like France versus the U.S. right there in the marshmallow cooking. Well, okay. I'm sure Americans sometimes do it like he did. But in terms of just like, whatever, you get it. Look at this. It's easier to be fearless when I see you taking the step with me. Oh, thank you for telling me once that I deserved a life filled with joy, because you know what? And then she motioned her arm around Miss Moore and the Crown family, kin and chosen, who had gathered just so like, this life doesn't suck. Okay, so there's some other stuff. They had cupcakes with rainbow sprinkles, as well as Philly delicacies like hoagies, pretzels. Oh, they had drinks, Beth and Cherry drinks, T-shirts. Oh, look, they even had rings. Aw. Okay, this is adorable. And they had a Gen X playlist: David Bowie, Duran Duran, Ani DeFranco, Spice Girls. Love it. Look at this. All this. So this is me and my platonic soulmate, Liz. And we first met in the outdoor industry as raft guides. And I remember seeing her and being like really jealous of her because she was really confident and direct. And I was at first like, oh, I don't like that girl. And then I thought, no, it's just because she has what you want. She's direct and confident. So we ended up chatting. And the reason why I share that is because what I realized, this is just a little lesson in general. Let your jealousy be your compass. Instead of it turning into being a hater, and being full of self-pity and being a victim, which I really, I used to do that. Once I started realizing that jealousy can actually point you towards something that you actually really want, which is, I used to be really shy and super, passive aggressive. This girl, right? I know it's hard to believe that I used to be shy. I mean, you literally, I gotta do a whole video on that. Please remind me. I will forget probably. I realized I didn't even know this person, and I don't hate her. I was jealous of her. And so when we started talking, I was like, dang, she's funny. She's awesome. I think 2 days after we met, we went on a road trip to Boulder and went climbing, chatted we were like this instantly. I have never felt so connected and so seen and had so much fun with someone that fast in my whole life. And 20 years later, we are still like this. Because y'all know I say all the time with creativity, if you find yourself being jealous and hating someone for signing a book deal or whatever, instead of letting that destroy you and make you a better person, let that jealousy maybe be either A, just questioning something, do I really want this? What this is about? Or B, oh, maybe I should take a writing class. Maybe I should start journaling every day. Maybe I should start just taking some action so that I don't feel stuck in my jealousy. I don't know. Anyway, it's much deeper than that, but I just want to share that because I almost missed one of the most rewarding relationships of my life that has changed my life and changed me dramatically as a person and gave me a blueprint for what a healthy relationship looks like, what healthy love looks like. I got that from Liz. I would not be able to have recognized it in Anthony if I hadn't already experienced that with Liz. And I would have missed out on all that because I saw her and I was jealous. And then I just, moved past it and just went, I don't know if I introduced myself. I forget how we met, but it was a work training for being a raft guide. And we literally became best friends from that moment on. People called us whenever they talked about Liz, they talked about Mel. It was Mel and Liz, Mel and Liz, Mel and Liz. In their phones, it would be Mel, in parentheses, Liz. You know what I mean? And vice versa. Every time I went anywhere, people were like, how's Liz? This is literally my first partnership, y'all. We worked together, we lived together, we were together all the time, we were besties. My mom would ask about her, still does. She's never met her, and she asks about her all the time. Same thing with her parents. We even had our own secret language. We had we just have our own secret language, y'all. And people loved our love. There's never any schmegdual energy between us. We just loved each other. And it's really one of the things I'm most grateful for in my entire life. So when she got married back in 2009, well, first of all, when she told me she was getting married, so this is back in New Mexico, drove all the way out to New Mexico to be in her wedding and support this marriage. But when I first found out that she was getting married, because I thought back then that you can only really love one person, I was so jealous and I was so afraid that I was going to lose my best friend, Thing when my sister got married, I was like, oh my God, I'm being abandoned. And I told her when she called me to tell me that she was getting married. And I was like, when? And she was in 18 months. And I was like, oh, okay, well, at least you have time to change your mind. Y'all, but because this is who she is, she was like, wow, I have to tell you, that's the meanest thing you've ever said to me. And she was like, I would expect that from maybe my parents or just anyone, but I never thought I'd hear that from you. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I basically spent the rest of the rest of the 18 months making that up to her because it had nothing to do with her husband. It was about my own fear. And so, yeah, me and her husband became buddies, and we all traveled together, the three of us sometimes. So they came out to visit us in France a couple years ago. This is us in, Chamonix. So she's a very private person, so I will not show her face. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is Chamonix. Look at that. Look at that, y'all. Okay, I'm going to do this instead. See, look at us. We went hiking. This is us. We bonded in the outdoor. We were both raft guides together. We lived in our trucks next to each other when we were working that job, being nomadic, going back between rafting and outdoor education and then, ski stuff. You have to follow the work. So we just followed each other in our trucks. So because the borders were closed, she could not come to our wedding. But this is where me and Anthony got married. So when she came to visit in France, we took her and to see, because she coordinated the entire Zoom call. 200 people on that call from my life, from all stages of my life were on that call. And it was all because of Liz, because I didn't want to invite anybody. I was like, well, I don't want to bother anybody. This is my burden story, y'all. My burden story, like, almost ruined my life. It continues to almost ruin my life. I have to keep it in check all the time. I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to bother anybody by putting a video out there. I don't want to make anyone watch anything. And people are like, you're not making me do anything. Like, I want to watch it. I'm like, oh, right. Anyway, she was the brains behind all this. Her and my friend Christina, Christina is from my childhood friend. They met through my wedding, over the internet, basically, in the phone. And Christina could come because the borders weren't closed with the country she's in. So she came over, was there, and sending videos to Liz, and then Liz was dispatching it, out to my sister, my stepmom, my mom, so that, my family could be there since they couldn't be there. All this was because of her. So we got to meet up in Amsterdam just back in February. Went on one of those little boat things. And everyone's like, take a picture with Liz. Nope. This was a joke. I was like, everyone wants to see you, but I'm not going to show you. I'm very protective of my life now, especially because I've had so many men stalk me on Instagram and whatever when the red pillars get my stuff. So if you wonder why I don't share much about my current life, it's because I already share so much about all my stories before. I really want to protect the people closest to me, especially the ones who can't choose their anonymity, like my family. And she's a private person. She always has been. Always has been. So the back of her head or a crown over her face is all you're going to get. We are clearly very different. This is oversharer, private person. And I just want to share one last thing. Much like that story before, when COVID first started, we were in confinement. And, Anthony and I had not been dating that long, and then we were thrown into confinement, or we chose to confine together, which is what we ended up marrying because of that several month-long experiment of literally being forced to spend 24 hours together every day. Police enforced, permission slip to leave the house, 1 hour a day to exercise within a kilometer. No other reason you could leave. I got stopped all the time. Your permission slip. Where are you going? So literally every day, all day, for months. But during that time, I was calling her all the time. And in the very beginning, we both were just like, I just want you to know, like, you're just as important. Like, you are literally the most important person in my life. Like, just as important. Oh, mosquito. Just as important as any marriage will ever be. You are my soulmate. I think you can have more than one. But it was just like a really, really touching moment because we hadn't really expressed that. Like, you are my soulmate. Like, we knew it, but we didn't, like, we were like, oh my God, please don't die. Like, please be careful. Please don't, whatever. And I think like that, much like the friends in that story, we were like, right, we are forever soulmates. And we hadn't really quite realized that. Anyway, I really encourage anyone who follows my page, please put effort into finding friendships that are based on the things that I was just talking about, instead of trying to find men who will do that for you. They might. I'm not saying give up if you really want to keep dating or whatever, but please do not ever spend more time investing in dating than you do in friendships. Because those friends are the ones who will show up for you. Not always. I know friends betray people or whatever. Vet your friendships hard. Very hard. But take chances. Follow Danielle Jackson. She just came out with a book. Try to remember to link it. She's amazing. She's one of my mutuals. I've been on her podcast. She taught me so much about friendship, because we need to redefine what love is, what love looks like, what a soulmate looks like, and really value different kinds of love than just romantic. Anyway, follow my Patreon. Please go to my Patreon, even if you can't afford it. I still do like free stuff every once in a while, but that's where I do my lives. That's where I do my French content, personal stories, healing, dating, creativity, all that stuff. Thank you for being here. Like, comment, share, set notifications, follow if you're not already, or sub or whatever. And et voila. This is the comment song. Maybe you're writing the comment. I don't wanna cut you off, so keep writing your comment. Are you hearing this? If you are actually hearing this song, please say something, because I'm just talking to myself. This is a comic song. Thank you for being here. See you next time. Et voilà. Merci beaucoup.